Villains, the face of evil, the antagonists in a hero's or protagonist story. When I say the word villain, what comes to mind? You probably have all kinds of villains' faces popping into your head. So do I. And when it comes to crafting a good villain, you have to be able to envision it first. I've been working on my book. The book currently, we're just calling The War of Imagination, is the story that I want to use to kick off the rest of the Transcendent worlds. But it got me thinking as I was working on some of the antagonists in the story, and specifically the villain. And I don't want to spoil anything yet, but suffice it to say, let's just call the villain for now the Dark One. Now, the Dark One as a villain, I was trying to think about his motives, his goals, and it got me thinking about how does one craft a villain in storytelling and world building. There's a lot of different methods. A lot of different people will tell you different things across the internet, and I've seen some really great videos, and then there are some that are less so, or they just don't inform as much as you would like them to. The thing is I want to tell you some of my methods and also what I've noticed about villains. There are a lot of great examples, but there's a couple that come to my mind when I think about villains. One in particular is the villain Silco from Arcane. Well written, well drawn, well done everything. From his music to his art style, Silco introduces a flair of something that is quite interesting. He's a villain right in the middle. He's not a villain we fully agree with, but he's also a villain we don't fully disagree with. Silco himself is a mob boss in the Undercity of Piltover, trying to craft the Undercity into a nation called Zon, which in League of Legends lore is what it inevitably becomes, and in Season 2 of Arcane, it eventually reaches. Silco himself believes in a couple of philosophies, and that's something to note first. Philosophies. Ideals. Villains are built upon specific ideals and philosophies. When you're drawing it on your whiteboard or in your notes, you have to keep down, what is it that my villain's focus is? It should somewhat reflect the heroes, because that's how they inevitably clash. Sometimes when a villain has less to do with what the hero is trying to accomplish or what the hero stands for, the villain falls flat a little bit. We see this in a movie like Spectre. Even though the 007 movie Spectre is amazing, the villain does fall a bit flat. I love the actor, and I love his writing for how he antagonizes James Bond, but the thing is that his motives, which is another thing to keep in mind, and his ideals are very weak. His ideals and principles are kind of just to rule the world because he can. And his vendetta against Bond has to do with the fact that he was jealous that he was an adopted little brother after James's family died. It's not very strong. You want ideals like Silco has, where they are very palpable. They're clear and cut and dry. You can understand them right off the bat. Some villains can be unpredictable, but that's an ideal or a principle that they live by. Whether they say it or not, they at least show it or show it in their actions and choices. Silco's principles are built on things such as in the first scene when we meet him, he states,
"I'd like to let you in on a very important secret I learned when I was about your age, boy. You see, power, real power, doesn't come to those who are born strongest, or fastest, or smartest. No, it comes to those who will do anything to achieve it."
From what we learn about this, we learn that Silco is willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish his desires, his means. Now, the reason why we later learn is because he was almost killed, drowned by Vander, his former friend and almost like a brother of sorts. That's a deeper. A brother who betrayed him, he felt like, and from it he learned and felt reborn to being able to do something new, and that principle was created. Villains need principles, they need ideals. And if they aren't villains that are honorable or don't have necessarily principles they live by, they at least need some kind of motive to lead those secret principles that aren't stated. A good example of this is the Joker.
Ooh, ha, ha, and I thought my jokes were bad.
The Joker is a perfect example of a villain who's driven by motivation. Motivation being the other aspect of the villain, it's the why behind what they do. Their actions, their decisions, even the things they say. Joker in particular is an enigma and unpredictable, but we see what he's all about. In the beginning of the movie, it's another good example of presenting a character, and specifically a villain, as to what they're all about, or what they set the mood in, setting the stage for something strange, awesome, and also frightening, especially with the Joker. The entire robbery crew talks about how they don't really know him, he's unpredictable, very cryptic, no one knows his identity at all, and there's many myths and legends that surround his name and him as a character. By the end of it, all the robbers get each other killed because that was a part of the assignment, but the Joker turns out to be the remaining criminal. And when a bank teller asks as to why he's doing what he's doing and why and kind of questioning and like putting him on the spot, the Joker doesn't care and sticks a grenade into his mouth and says,
"You believe it, huh? What do you believe in?"
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
Setting the stage for what he's all about. He is a character that is all about defying expectations, even death. Letting the bank teller live while also making it a joke. All of his crimes, in a way, are not just a joke, but it is also to cause chaos. We see in the scene where he talks to Harvey Dent, it's chaos. The power of being able to, in a way, test people with his chaotic nature and his chaotic intentions. Motivation shown and told through the character, however you desire to write it, because showing, not telling, is completely up to you. A lot of writers even sometimes defy those rules. But really, when it comes down to it, you want to present the motivations. Even if your character, like the Joker, is unpredictable, you want to display something. Otherwise, your character becomes distant. The villain then has less of a reason as to why they're doing, and they're just crazy. Which is fascinating, but it loses substance. That's why killers like Michael Myers in Halloween, though we know his motivation is to kill his younger sister, it's not exactly really like a strong alibi behind his motivation. At the end of the day, he seems more like a killer. And maybe some other extensions to the story of Michael Myers' character explain or go a little bit into it, but they make it seem more like he's just a force of evil, going out doing terrible things. While on the other hand, we have a character like Joker who's unpredictable, but we understand a little bit behind the mask that he puts on. You want to have motivations. You want to have a measurement of how much you connect with the character, but also you want to be able to figure out their ideals. Whether they are an exact counterpart to the hero or protagonist, or they are just simply challenging the hero with a different ideal or set of ideals, that is all up to you. But you have to be able to establish a motivation and ideals to the character. And there is also the principle, ultimately, of the villain's goals. Darth Vader is a good example of the other side of the spectrum. We talked about how Silco is very much a villain that's in the middle, a villain we can somewhat relate to, but at the same time, we don't completely. Then there is the Joker. The Joker is a villain we do not relate to at all. He's crazy, methodical, insane, but more than that, and more than anything, he is absolutely chaotic. His methods and intentions are not necessarily relatable on a ground level that we all relate to. No. Darth Vader, though, is a good example of someone we do relate to. Other characters a part of the more relatable set of villains are characters like Zuko, Tai Lung. They all have something in common. Now, you could call it the tragic backstory, or perhaps a backstory that is a little bit more sad and more relatable. That's for sure. But it's also the facts behind their motivations that's relatable. And that's where we begin to believe in their goals. Zuko is the disgraced prince of the Fire Nation. His father, Fire Lord Ozai, had punished him in losing a tournament against him in the Agni Kai. And to bring back his honor, forced his son to have to go and find and track down the Avatar. Zuko does this. He's motivated to restore his honor, but there's so much more happening that even his uncle, Uncle Iroh, points out to him. He, in essence, really wants to understand himself. He wants to be his own person, and if anything, he's blinded by the pursuit of trying to receive honor from his father, when in reality, it won't do anything for him. Tai Lung, in a similar boat, is obsessed with becoming the Dragon Warrior and obtaining the scroll, and we relate to him because he strives so hard to not only impress his master, Master Shifu, who's like a father figure in his life, but he also intensely wanted to be able to prove to himself and fulfill what he had been told all of his life. And we understand as to why he sought vengeance and became extremely angry when everything didn't quite go his way. Darth Vader is in a similar boat. The goals behind these three characters is based upon things that tore them apart. You could call them the more tragic side of villains, and we might have to go into another video about the different kinds of villains that exist, but it's good to note that the goals need to match behind the ideals and motivation. Vader being a great example of a character whose goals are driven by his motivations and his ideals. Darth Vader sought to save Padme, originally as Anakin Skywalker. Then this led to him the path of the dark side, which is, and the path of the dark side really explains everything about every Sith, but in their own way. Fear leading to hate, hate leading to anger, and anger leading to suffering, which inevitably led to the dark side. It's pivotal to craft your villain with these three principles, because in between the three, you can put everything you want. That part, I feel like I don't have to tell you much about. You have to come up with all of those things. You have to be the one to decide, where does your villain come from? What is your villain all about? What are their powers and abilities? But the three biggest things, and it does apply to other characters, but specifically for a villain, you want to be able to identify what they're all about, their ideas and principles, how they were shaped and formed in their life, and how they affect their motives, which then in turn affect their goals and what they're trying to accomplish in the story. This coincides with the hero. That's the other part. You have to figure out if you want to parallel your hero and your villain together, or if you want to leave them separate. Keep in mind that your characters are always going to be at opposite ends, your villain and your hero. But remember, crafting a villain takes one key principle out of everything else. Even with the other three, there's something that is most vital. Your villain has to challenge the hero in some way. And especially if you have different villains throughout a series or different installments to your story, you want to make sure that your villain is capturing something different than a previous one. But it should always challenge your protagonist. The villain is there to be the antagonist. He antagonizes the protagonist. While your hero or protagonist is trying to accomplish the goals of the story, the antagonist is there to disrupt them, to antagonize them, annoy, disrupt, and halt them. As I've written villains in a lot of my short stories with Tales of the Verse, and currently on my book, and some other stories I wrote throughout high school, and even now today, one thing has been clear to me. Villains require a little bit of finesse, and if anything, a little bit of vulnerability. At the end of the day, villains are built with our weaknesses, our flaws. That's why we relate to them a lot of the times, despise them because they're so similar to us, and at other times are even frightened by them, because it's the possibility of what we could become. Well, my friends, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was a little bit longer than most of my videos, but I hoped you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun talking about villains and how to craft them, and I'd been thinking about it for quite a while. I am working on a book this year, which I mentioned in the video, and if you would want to send your support, please leave a comment down below in the video. I would like to know if you think I should start a Patreon. I've been considering it because I want to be able to craft my stories for you guys so that you can get the best quality stories. I would love the support and help, and if you think that would be something I should do, leave a comment down below. Like and subscribe and share this video with those you think would enjoy it, and we are crafting characters like villains in their own stories. If you had any thoughts or ideas, or you want to hear more about this subject or anything else similar to it, please let me know in the comments section down below, and I'll get back to you about it. I'd love to chat and talk more about it with you guys directly. Here are some videos that I think you might like, with more analysis or stories I've written that you might be able to learn from, or maybe even be able to give me some notes and thoughts about. I love you guys. I thank you for your support, and as always, I'll see you on the other side of the gates.